Blast me to Electia! It's time for the Mad Merlins Warhammer 40,000 Imperium Journey. Episode 44, Part 2, Gallery, Rules, and Mission. Hello and welcome back to the Mad Merlins Warhammer 40,000 Imperium Journey. We're moving on with issue 44 today, and here we have the larger of the two ruins that we get in the issue. As you can see, I've done a little bit of a colour scheme reversal to the magazine, kept the flooring the same and the pipeworks, etc. But I've done the bulk of the walls in Mephiston red, washed it with Nuln oil, and then given it a dry brush of Coax white. The doors I've given a coat of Rakkar flesh and a wash of Agrax Earthshade. And the generator there, you can see I've picked out with Abaddon Black, the same as the half of the Cog Mechanicus. But I think it's a rather nice, easy on the eyes, and a quite more fitting for the Mechanicum. And here we have the smaller of the two ruins. Again, much the same. I've done the majority of it in Mephiston red. The windows I've picked out with the Rakkar flesh and Agrax Earthshade. And all the other metal details I've picked out with lead belcher and a wash of Nuln oil. I've also picked out the bank on the pipes there with Abaddon Black. But all in all, it looks a rather nice finish, I do think so myself. So we'll see these in action on my battlefield for this mission, as we've got the freedom to place terrain as we want, and I've used quite a lot of the terrain we've got so far in the collection. So let's move then on to our rules. Here we have issue 44, and we've got quite a few pages of rules to go through, so let's have a look at those now. As you can see, I've already took out the majority of the magazine that I've filed away and finished with. So our first bit of rules is a tutorial all about placing your terrain. So it's handy in 40k to think about different aspects when setting your terrain. Think of creating lines of fire for your units. Think about the objectives, where they're placed. You might want to put some ruins around an objective, so you've got a nice defensive position there for your armies. Movement lanes, so making sure you've got plenty of space between your terrain. Terrain variety, so making sure you have a good choice. So you've got ruins, containers, pipes, scatter terrain like barrels, etc. And then whether you want to be symmetrical or asymmetrical with your deployment. For me, I've done a randomized table. What I've done is the board was divided in half. So I rolled a d6. On an odd number, it's half 1. On an even number, it's a half 2. Then I rolled a d8. And I placed a piece of terrain in a rectangle section of the map as it's divided into 8, depending on the dice roll, to a maximum of 3 pieces of terrain per square rectangle. And on the reverse, we've got a look at some examples. So here we have a more balanced terrain setup. So you've got 2 ruins, 2 containers, 2 sets of pipes, and a reactor in the center there. And this one is more thematic, so you've got the approach to a ruined city, and you've got the ruins, generators, and containers there. Also, for this issue, we learn about strategic reserves for our advanced rules. So strategic reserves is the ability to place units into reserves. It will cost you command points, but as we're not using command points, we have the free reign to put a few of our units for free into reserves for the mission. So I'll be doing units that have short range and need to get to the enemy quicker. So I've chosen for the aggressors and the librarian. For the Necrons, though, most of their stuff is fast moving. Anything that's slow moving will be staying near the deployment zone anyway to try and hold the home objective. Of course, the home objective is worth less for the deployed team, so you want to get to at least one unit or more to the other side of the board in order to claim that high-priced objective. But basically, we're allowed to put a combined total of power into reserve for one command point, up to 1 to 9 power, and continuing up in the 10s, and each 10 will cost you an additional command point. Strategic reserves will move on later on during the game from either table edge of your choice, I say, but you can't deploy within your opponent's deployment zone until after turn 3, I believe it is. But it just gives you a whole lot of options on how to deploy your units. As I said, I've gone for the librarian and the aggressors. The aggressors are slow moving anyway, and the librarian, he fits in for being a sneaky, stealthy type of unit. And then we have rules for aircrafts and strategic reserves. So aircrafts can, with the new addition, freely move on and off the battlefield and automatically enter reserves. Also here we have a table of, or a summary of what can happen. So battle round 1, you can't bring on any strategic reserves. 2, wholly within 6 inches of any battlefield edge, but not the battlefield edge of the enemy deployment zone. Battle round 3+, set up with 6 inches of a battlefield edge, but not the enemy battlefield edge. Cannot set up 9 inches. Strategic reserves cannot move, advance, or fall back this turn, so they can still make a shoot and charge. Always count as having moved, so any weapons that will suffer penalties for moving and firing will be considered into effect. And units not set up by the end of the game count as destroyed. So you ought to make sure you don't put too much of your unit army into strategic reserve, otherwise you could end up basically crippling your own forces. And finally, we have a tutorial for strategic reserves. So at the start of the game, you can declare what units go into strategic reserve. And on the back here, we got a few tutorial suggestions. So here we have the aggressors being put into strategic reserve. They move on 6 inches from table edge, coming into contact with not only the objective, but range of fire on the immortals there. Defending against strategic reserves, you want to use fast-moving units to keep close by to the edge of the battlefield and hold out the enemy. So now we're ready to play our mission, Battle for the Spires. So this is a pretty big mission. We've got 2 battlefield mats being used. We have a total of 4 objectives in play, 2 in the centre, 10 inches in, and 2 either side, 8 inches in. And like I said, the objective marker 3 is worth 2 points to the defenders, objective marker 4 is worth 2 points to the attackers, or 1 point to the closest deployment section. 1 and 2 are both worth 2 points each. I think it's 3 points. 3 points for the defenders to claim, 3 points for the attackers to defend, 2 points each, and 1 and 1. So our forces in play is a Necron Royal Warden, Overlord, 10 warriors, 5 immortals, 3 Scorpion destroyers, a spider, and scarab swarms. For our Ultramarines, we have a Captain Librarian, Tech Priest Dominus, 5 intercessors, 10 Skitarii Rangers, and 3 aggressors. You have the freedom to place terrain as you see fit, which is pretty good. As I said, we have only one objective, which is a progressive objective, which is take and hold. So I will see you at the battlefield. So here we are, all set up. I've got the 10 Skitaria Rangers on top of the ruins in the deployment zone. The Tech Priest Dominus is below them in the ruins. The Captain and the Assault Intercessors are sitting in the centre field ready to start claiming objectives. Then I've got the Aggressors and the Librarian in Strategic Reserve back with me. And the Necrons, I've deployed everything out in a nice straight line just to hopefully keep the opponents from getting too much ground by coming in from behind. So as I detailed earlier, we have our 4 objective markers, 2 in the centre, 1 on each side just outside of deployment zones. And like I said, I've set the terrain up in a rather random, but I think still a really good method, and it's worked out well, I think. Excuse me. So, here we go with Battle for the Spires. The battle for Electia Prime rages on many fronts, from statue-lined boulevards to smoke-belching factorum districts and the towering Gothic residences of the city's nobility. The Imperium must retain control of these districts if the city is to be cleansed. Necrons, Overlord, accelerate the invasion. The Necron Overlord, frustrated by his forces' lack of progress, has decided to lead a series of strikes on key positions, from the Blessed Shrines to weapons storage facilities. The Necron commander hopes to overwhelm the Imperial defenders and push them into an ever-decreasing pocket, ready to be destroyed. Imperium, Primaris Captain, running battles. With the Canoness and her Adepta Sororitas sisters scattered through the Hive City, the Ultramarines Primaris Captain has taken command of the defences. His force must rush from conflict to conflict, inspiring the defenders of Electia and preventing Imperial forces from being shepherded into a kill zone. So there we have it, we are deployed. I'll just have to roll off to see who gets first turn. So will it be the Imperium or the Necrons? It is the Necrons. So Necrons go first. And in this mission they are the attackers, and the Imperium are the defenders, I believe. Yeah, that's right. Attackers deployment zone, defenders deployment zone. So here we go then with turn 1. Okay, turn 1 was impressive. Not a lot did happen, but the Necrons surged forward, the Scarabs scoring them a single point for controlling Objective 2. The Scorpion Destroyers didn't quite manage to get close enough, despite getting a 6 on their advance roll. They didn't quite get close enough to get to the objective. They only had the +1 movement from the Royal Warden. But they still managed to get up the board. They did lose a single member of the squad to the Skitaria shooting phase, but I got 2 6s and a 5 on my reanimation protocols, and so he's jumped back up, and he's within 2 of the unit at the back there, just to hold off anybody coming in on turn 2. Providing, of course, they are still there to deny the access point. But with everything still to play for, it's time, I think, for our second turn. Here we go with turn 2. End of turn 2, and because my Overlord's a bit on the greedy side, he decided to hold back his Scorpion Destroyers and claim some victory points early on. So we are in the lead with 3 points. Not a lot happened in the shooting. I did manage to kill 1 Assault Intercessor with the I think it was the Immortals, actually, not the Warriors. It was the Immortals shooting long range at them. combat though, and with the added bonus of pistol and Skitari fire, I wiped out the scarabs. And the captain has fought against the spider, suffering 3 wounds, but dealing back 2. But at the end of the turn, we scored 1 point for the Ultramarines, giving us giving the Necrons a 3-1 lead. So, with that then, it's time for turn 3, I think. Okay, turn 3 has finished, and it's been a massacre on the Ultramarine side. The Assault Intercessors and the Captain got ganged by the Scorpion Destroyers, Warriors, and the Spider was there until the Captain killed it, before it got a chance to strike back. But either way, the Ultramarines are now relying on the aggressors who have come in over here, and the Librarian who've not only perilled, he failed his charge. So he's sat in the middle ready for the Overlord to turn around and chop him up to pieces. Necrons turn 4 will consist of getting the Scorpion Destroyers onto the objective that scores them 3 points, and trying to mop up the remainder of the Imperial forces. The Overlord suffered 3 wounds thanks to the Skitari, some nice sharp shooting from them. But other than that, it has gone pretty poorly. So here we go then with turn 4. Okay, bottom of turn 4, and it's not really gone well. The poor little Librarian got slashed in half by the Void Scythe for a total of 9 damage. I lost 1 aggressor to the Immortal shooting. The aggressors roasted 4 warriors with their flame gauntlets and held objective 3, scoring 3 points. But it's going to be a give up situation. It's turn 5 next, and really there's nothing the Ultramarines can hope to do to gain another 3 points to try and go for a tie. The Ultramarines do have the added bonus of losing their Overlord, which I don't think you actually score any points for anyway. But it's a crippling hit to the side's morale. All I can do then is call the game there. And we'll take a look at what's in our next Imperium. So, issue 45 sees us getting a new reinforcement for our Necrons in the form of a Canoptic Wraith. We learn about orders of the Sisters of Battle, and we have a alien fold-out featuring all the different Xenos races. Then issue 46 is one of my favourite issues. I've recently just finished painting all the models from it. We get an additional bunch of units for our Adeptus Sororitas. Learn all about the different sisterhoods, which is actually, that is a lie. There is no lore in this issue in particular. We just have battle records for our sisters, and we have the rules, a really detailed paint guide, which is a benefit, and then of course we have a small mission featuring the sisters and the Canoness against a strike team of Necrons. But that's all there is for that issue. There of course will be a gallery for that issue, but I can actually reach and show you one of my Battle Sisters quickly. That is just using the methods in a magazine, and I think it is a really good end result. But we'll have a closer look at those when I come around to issue 46. So with that mission finished, all we have left to do is to say thank you all for watching. Be sure to like the video, it helps the channel get noticed. If you don't already, subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with the Imperium Journey. And if you want to, feel free to share this to your other hobby groups so it gets, again, the channel noticed a bit more. Again, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I will see you next time for more mad content. Goodbye.